Hey everyone, Sue here at Sands Company Jewelers. I guess this was part two of our little segment on how to identify some of your jewelry, if it's gold or silver or whatnot. I did the chains and bracelets, and so I thought I would move on to pendants because that is one of the hardest items to identify because if it's a real delicate piece, like where are they going to put that stamp? And they can't stamp it up afterward because you're going to destroy the piece. I mean, it's really tricky, and we've run into it where we've done a whole piece. And we're like, oh no, we don't have a stamp on there. We have to make a little tag and solder on there somewhere because legally all pieces of jewelry, I forget the year, it's early 20s, 1920s. You actually legally have to stamp everything that you make in gold, silver. So yeah, we've had to go back and try to figure out how to get a stamp on there. So it's a bummer. So like they're in like all these really odd places sometimes. Like the this little pearl pendant is actually quite hollowed out. Um, uh, and right on the back, this is a little hidden veil, and I can actually see a little, and I can feel it with my fingernail. There is a stamp on there, and they probably were doing that during the manufacturing, like the very beginning when they made it out of wax, most likely. That first prototype, they have the stamp in there, because they're mass producing these pieces. And I look at it and it definitely says 14 karat. That was actually pretty easy for me to find. So the bail is a very likely place for a stamp to be, and it can even sometimes be on the inside of the bail because like this is very sculpted, and like you can't stamp the bail again, you would ruin the design. And I'm looking on the inside, I don't see anything. There's a little something in there. Sometimes you just have to keep moving a piece around. No, it doesn't. Oh, actually, the bail doesn't have it, but the little jump ring on it has a little 14 karat stamp. Sometimes you just have to keep looking around. This is a true antique. My husband, of course, he gave this to me, and it's a really beautiful locket, and it has rubies and sapphires. Yeah, I'm kind of showing off because this is just a beautiful antique piece, and it has my mom and dad and Steve in there, my little kitty cat. But the piece itself, I was studying this, and I thought, well, maybe it was on the little rings around here, and I kept studying it, and I didn't see any stamp on there. And right at the last second, right where the hinge is, there's the tiniest little 14 karat stamp. And I couldn't believe it. I had this one that was a little fox, and I looked all over this pendant and I couldn't find it. And I'm like, but it tested as gold. I couldn't find the stamp. And eventually, like in its fur, they delicately carved in 14 karat. It was so beautifully done. I love beautifully done jewelry. I just admire when it's a finished, beautiful piece like that. So remember earlier when I was telling you we sometimes forget to put a stamp on there. Well, this was one of those pieces. This is my personal piece, a little opal, and you're not going to be stamping this because you're hammering the stamp in there. We're certainly not gonna. We're gonna destroy this opal. So we actually had to make a tag and stamp the tag and then solder on the back of the piece so that the stamp was on there. And so it's a Sands, of course, and a 14 karat. So that actually I found pretty quick, but that's a good example of, this is a very interesting piece. This is a pin, but it's also a pendant. It has like this invisible veil on there. This is a piece I got a couple of years ago that I really like. And I remember I did test it, and this one's really tricky because there doesn't seem to be a stamp until, okay, the little lever that goes back and forth to close the pin back, it's right there, 14 karat. It's actually a little obvious now that I see it. I really can see the stamp. But there's actually a very interesting that I never noticed on there before. It's like hand etched. J3241. Very interesting. I have no idea what that means. It could have been the person who made it. I doubt it. It's very interesting. So, really study your piece. Really move it back and forth, and look for those stamps. They could really hide them in the most unusual places. It's a very cool thing. That was actually pretty short, so I think I'll just go ahead and move on to earrings because let's face it, because they're so small, where in the world are they going to put the stamps? I wonder if I have any post earrings. I don't. We're just going to use mine. One mistake a lot of people make is that because the clutch itself has a 14 karat stamp, and this one does, it's not on the back side, it's actually on the front side. It actually has a little 14 karat stamp. They assume the whole earring is gold. It's not gold necessarily. So you really do have to remove that back. And look at this tiny little earring. Where are they going to put the stamp on this? 99.99% of the time, it's actually on this little stem. Very amazing. And I'm trying to focus in on it. And I'm actually running my fingernail along the post because I can actually feel that there's a stamp there. And so when I bring my little tripod up, and sometimes you just have to move it in the light before you see it, and there it is. My goodness, it is very light, but it is absolutely there. So that is definitely one place. Most times you're going to actually find a karat stamp on there. And you're definitely going to, even if you have awesome eyes, you're going to need a loop to see that. So these are lever back earrings. Let me find one that lever back earrings are just awesome because they're comfortable, and it actually snaps into place. Most of the time, it's actually on the back side of that little lever backs, and that pops up. That's usually where the stamp is. So I am gonna look, and I'm feeling my fingernail for it. Oh, it's not there. So I'm back. We had a little snafu there with the battery. So I was talking about the lever back, and that back side is usually where the stamp is, but this one happens to be on the side, but it's definitely on the lever back part of this earring. Since these are hollow, I mean, if this was solid, you wouldn't even be able to wear it for very long because it just would be way too heavy. Sometimes they would actually stamp the jump ring attached to that so that you would get your karat stamp on there. I do have two more things. So this is a screw back earring for not pierced ears. Yes, they are out there, and there's plenty of them that are gold and silver. And most of the time, the little part where you're using it to screw it back and forth, it's on that little pad in the back. Sometimes it's on the little loop down here. If it's not on that part, it's going to be on this earring. This one actually happens to be a costume piece that I love, and I wouldn't even mind making these in white gold because I love them so much. I'm just curious. Yeah, see, it's magnetic. But it actually does have a little stamp on there, curiously. Oh, that's curious. So that part is steel or something, but this part actually is sterling, and it is not magnetic. So that's unusual. Maybe it was replaced or something at some time. We have no idea the history of these old pieces. It's kind of neat. So I have one last one, and that is hoop earrings. Again, like the stem on the post earring, this little stem will have, and these ones are actually pretty easy to see. I could see the stamp right away. I can't quite read it. It has the 14 karat, and it does have a maker's mark on there as well. But, if it's not actually on that stem, it might be on the inside pad or something like that. But definitely, that's about it probably for the earrings. And I think the very last thing to really go over is probably rings. So I'll probably just save that for the next time. And thanks for tuning in, and hopefully that was a help to you. All right, we'll see you soon.